Welcome. This is a series of brief interviews with Mark Jaccard, commenting on climate issues that are subject of his new book for non-experts, called The Citizen's Guide to Climate Success. Hello, Mark. I've got a question for you.
Please go ahead.
Climate advocacy groups are excited about the potential for government COVID recovery spending to also reduce greenhouse gas emissions. They call it the Green Recovery or the Green New Deal. Are you excited too?
Well, I'm more worried than excited. Now, why do I say that? Well, because pretty well all experts know how greenhouse gases decline, and they don't really decline from government spending. The causes of greenhouse gases are decisions and expenditures and investments made by individuals like you and I, households, a group of people, or by firms or corporations. It's our decisions to buy this kind of car versus that kind of car, take transit, to heat our house in a certain way, and for industries to decide how to make electricity or what kind of car to provide, and how to make steel and aluminum and manufacture goods. And those decisions, those investments, they dominate by far. And because we're in a society where most spending is private, government spending really can't do a lot. And so then you have to ask, well, then how do we reduce greenhouse gas emissions if it can't be government spending? Well, what experts have known for decades is that there's really only two kinds of things we can do, policies of government. And these are to put a price on emissions, so sometimes we call that a carbon tax, or to implement regulations. And usually it's going to be some combination of the two. But you have to do this because fossil fuels are cheap. And that's coal, oil, and gas. So coal for an electricity generating plant, and oil products like gasoline and diesel for a car, and natural gas for a home or for industry. They're cheap, and they're actually likely to get cheaper. And so government spending, no amount of government spending can overcome this in an economy where private spending is the critical determinant of greenhouse gas emissions.
Can you give me some examples of what you mean by prices or regulations and what needs to happen with these?
Yes, there are many examples. I'll stick to North America and think about carbon pricing. The state of California and the province of Quebec both have something where you put a cap on emissions, and that cap goes down over time. And industries, whether it's for their own emissions or the implicit emissions in the gasoline that they're providing to consumers or electricity, that cap goes down, and they have to meet that lowering cap. So that they end up trading permits to do that, and that puts a price on carbon. The simpler kind of price is a carbon tax, and the province of British Columbia has a carbon tax, and actually the Canadian federal government now over the last few years has implemented a backstop carbon tax for any of the regions of Canada that are not doing carbon pricing. Those are carbon pricing, which I talked about. That's a good way to do it. It can be challenging politically, but you can also use regulations, and you can even design them so that they're fairly efficient from an economic point of view. Both California and British Columbia have a low carbon fuel standard, which requires the sellers of energy that's used in transportation, whether it's gasoline, diesel, even electricity for electric cars, or hydrogen for hydrogen fuel cells, the total carbon content of what the energy they sell has to decline by regulation. California, BC, and Quebec all have a zero-emission vehicle regulation, which requires vehicle sellers to have a growing share of zero-emission vehicles that they sell in the market. And then another example is the US. Almost 30 states now in the US have a renewable portfolio standard, which is a bit like British Columbia's clean electricity standard, which forces electricity providers to have more and more renewables or zero emission sources of electricity. So those are some of the examples of the policies that we need that are essential in an economy where private decisions by householders and firms determine emissions.
So, are you saying that government spending can create jobs but not reduce emissions?
No, I mean, government spending can reduce emissions. But first of all, we have to really understand from the reasons I just pointed out that government spending is not the savior and it's not even a leading hope. Um, but if there is to be government spending as part of helping to re-stimulate your economy after you shut it down with COVID, for COVID, if you think you need to do that, because there are some people that argue that the economy is going to spring back on its own and government can just get out of the way and watch. I think probably you do need to do some spending, but then that spending should be very strategic. And so the package of things that government should do is first, it should stay the course with the rising stringency of whatever package of regulations and pricing that it has in place. And that's more important than anything. And so that's why people like me keep coming out with that when people talk about the excitement of a green recovery. Secondly, if government is going to spend money, any of that money it spends should support these policies. So if we have a policy that's trying to make houses use less natural gas, then the subsidies to homeowners that from government spending should only be for switching from natural gas to, for example, electric heat pumps. And if we're trying to get the people to stop buying gasoline and diesel vehicles and instead electric, hydrogen, maybe biofuel, then the subsidies from government should go directly towards that fuel switching. So this is really the way. And then finally, if government's giving money on the corporate side, it shouldn't be to prop up the oil industry unless that industry is actually taking its fossil fuel product, its base product, so oil or coal or whatever, and making sure that it captures all the carbon while it makes electricity or hydrogen, because these are products that when we use them, they won't cause any emissions. And then finally, some of that government money should really go to support workers and regions who are going to be disadvantaged as we decarbonize, so that what we call a just transition. And I'm a strong believer in that. And then the final point I'll make is, which I've kind of hinted at, is that government money really has to be for fuel switching. So a lot of people talk about how exciting it would be to give homeowners money to put better insulation in their homes and use less energy. Well, to be honest with you, people who want to stay on a fossil fuel path have loved the 30 years of policies that we've been doing. Our energy utilities and our governments have been subsidizing energy efficiency. And what happens? Well, you use, let's say, home heating oil or natural gas in a home more efficiently, and you find more ways to use it. The natural gas homeowner has now got a spa with natural gas and a barbecue with natural gas and 2 fireplaces with natural gas and countless other products. And so it keeps you on that path. The government money has to be restricted to fuel switching. It's when you go away from natural gas completely. And it's the same, the example I'm giving you plays out everywhere throughout the economy. That's what experts who are kind of independent from all of this generally agree on. And that's why I'm very happy with this set of questions that you've asked me today.